us forward, that encourages us to get up and to live life to its fullest. And so we now say good morning to our Facebook family that is joining us via live stream. We are so happy and so delighted that you have joined us. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for all of the views that we're receiving. And we encourage you to continue to share this message, continue to share this love, and know that you are always welcome to participate with us. This morning, our topic is here and now. And we're looking at the third section of our Science of Mind textbook, the introductory section. And this one is what it does. Many of us refer to those first 4 chapters of the textbook as chapters, and they're actually introductions. And you know, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The content is what is important. And so we're looking at today what it does. Our journey throughout this year is going to focus on timeless wisdom and evolutionary vision. And our spiritual practices invite us to take a moment and take stock of where we are as we plan the route that is leading us to the life that we deserve. What is being asked of us is to unlearn in order to move forward. What may be required for us to unlearn in order to move forward? And this is where we get to explore what it does, here and now. Our spiritual practices prepare us to handle the pressures that arise from daily living. And the purpose of these practices, especially meditation, is not to get rid of the pressures that arise from daily living, but to give us the strength to grow despite these pressures. And I want to say that again, and I'd like you to just hold this in mind, because we talk a lot in this teaching about using spiritual practices. And so you may say, okay, I'm doing my work, I'm doing my meditation, I'm doing my prayers, I'm doing my contemplation, I'm doing my forgiveness work, I'm expressing love, but these things keep happening in life. And that's where our spiritual practices prepare us to handle the pressures that arise, not to get rid of them, but to handle them so that we can continue to gain the strength that is required for this journey. Using spiritual practices and present moment awareness, we take a genuine look at where we are right here, right now. We look inside ourselves, we look inside our communities, and we look inside our own movement. Those are the places that we begin, because this is where we congregate more often with one another in these particular places for our spiritual practices. And this is from our Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision. And it is a statement of the Evolutionary Vision. We envision a humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence, discovering the creative power of thought, a world in which every person discovers his or her own personal power, an ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. We envision a humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence. Pause for a moment and just allow that vision to expand within your own being. We are awakening to the spiritual magnificence of each and every person as they discover their own personal power. And then this from Dr. Holmes is a reminder of our timeless wisdom. This is from our Declaration of Principles. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Now, if we just repeated this one particular statement from our Declaration of Principles daily, I truly believe that we would begin to feel the dissipation of discord within our own lives, within our own very being. And because we live our life from the inside out, if we truly believe that the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete emancipation of all discord of every nature, not some nature, but all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all, we begin practicing it. We become the all. We are the all, because there's only one thing happening here, and that is God expressing. The following statements by Ernest Holmes and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. support, I believe, our focus for evolutionary vision and timeless wisdom. Dr. Holmes writes, "All the power of the universe is within you. Feel it, know it, and then act as though it were true. Act as if, act as though it were true." And then Dr. King offers this: darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So what Dr. Holmes and excuse me, Dr. King are offering to us is a reminder that we have the power of the universe that is ours to use. We have it within us. And that we know that love is what propels this power into action. And so by recognizing that I can feel it, I can feel love, I can know love, and then I act as though this were true. And by doing so, I drive out darkness, because I light the candle of love and shine it from the window of my own heart. I allow it to reflect through the window of my own eyes. I allow it to reflect through the smile that I present on my face. I know that love drives out darkness and love drives out hate. Ernest Holmes reminds us that the divine principle is infinite. It contains all knowledge and wisdom. But before it can reveal its secrets, it must have an outlet. And this is from our Science of Mind textbook on page 40, paragraph 1. And so where is that outlet? We are an inlet and an outlet for spirit. All of the wisdom of the world is within us. And as we observe ourselves in present time, we may realize that we haven't been good takers of this amazing thing called life. And so it is now time in this present moment to put our ancient wisdom and knowledge to use. And I offer these 3 points as an illustration of what it does and how we may use this. This is maybe a little preview into next week's talk, but for the moment, let's stick with where we are in this present moment, recognizing what it does, it being the spirit, the living presence of God within us. The first point that I offer to you is that power is in the now. And let us establish a working science of mind definition for power. Ernest Holmes defines power as the energy from which everything lives. The energy from which everything lives. What will that feel like to trust this power now? We also recognize and define principle. Ernest Holmes defines principle as the source or cause from which a thing results, a truth that is unchangeable. And we know that the power of love is unchangeable. The power of compassion is unchangeable. The power of forgiveness is unchangeable. The power of living life as we desire and deserve is unchangeable. And Thomas Troward, one of my favorite writers to study when I was taking classes, writes this: principle is not bound by precedent. We should not limit our we should not limit our expectations of the future. Principle is not bound by precedent. We should not limit our expectations of the future. And this is reminding us that regardless of what has occurred in our personal lives, in the life of our country, in the life of our planet, it cannot prevent us from moving forward unless we allow it to. Remember, we are always at choice. And this all-prevailing spirits, this all-prevailing presence, another definition that I use to describe spirit, can only give to us what we can take. And we come back to our spiritual principles and practices. Trained thought is far more powerful than untrained thought. The power that is already within us is our job to acknowledge it and to be confident in using it. The only time we can do this is now. The power of the past has already been used, and the power of the future is waiting for us to get there. And how many of us find ourselves trying to rely on used power? There's no strength in used power. Or we rely on a power that is in the future. We're forecasting what may happen and what I will do if this happens. That power is not yet available to us. What we have is the power of now. We have a tendency to look too far away for reality. Dr. Holmes says on page 41 in the textbook, we must start. Again, we must start now. And the second point of illustration is to pay attention to moments of awareness. We no longer have a normal. You know, some people are saying, I'll be glad when things return back to normal. Newsflash, present moment, right now, newsflash, we will continue to create a new normal. And this new normal emerges out of our willingness to expand our consciousness, to realize that we are the creators of our reality and that we are creating something magnificent that benefits all of us. We're contributing to our global vision where we awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence and spiritual greatness. If you're like me, have you ever observed yourself saying, I am busy? Or maybe we should put that in all caps and underline it with exclamation points and highlight with all of that and say, maybe I should just say, I am busy. So what am I busy doing? Am I multitasking? Am I getting ready to work? Am I caring for children? Am I attending some repairs around the house? Am I getting ready for a doctor's visit? Am I anticipating car repairs? Whatever it is that we find ourselves doing takes us away from paying attention to our present moments of awareness. Allowing ourselves moments of awareness is an important part of our spiritual practice. And I would submit to you that it is required for some of our spiritual practices. And for me, this means paying attention. In my rush to move on to the next thing, whatever that next thing is, I find that I shortchange myself by not paying full attention to what I am focused on in the moment. For those of us who consider ourselves reasonably good in the kitchen at preparing a meal, after preparing a meal, do we stop and experience the delicious aroma of the food that we have prepared? And do we pause long enough to taste the flavors of the various seasonings that we have put into the mix? or even if we're out and about doing whatever it is that we're doing, are we aware of that butterfly that may cross our path? Do we stop and allow ourselves to experience both the butterfly and its beauty? During the past few weeks, beautiful pictures of the surf and the high tides along the waterfront here on the Central Coast have been posted on our various local social media platforms. And desiring to witness this beauty through my own eyes, I find that I've allowed the busyness of my day to move into the evening and into the night and prevent me from going down to the waterfront. And so this past Thursday, some afternoon commitments that I have needed to be rescheduled and moved around. And so that freed up some time. And I set the intention, no matter what, I'm going down to the waterfront and I'm going to take a walk and I'm going to savor every moment of being at the water. And so I did this. I drove to a little point past Cannery Row because I wanted to replace my incense. There's a little shop on Cannery Row that has a nice variety of incense. So I drove past Cannery Row, almost to the Pacific Grove city limit marking, parked, and I paused and I sat in the car for a few moments and I looked out at the water and then I got out. And I just took a nice leisurely stroll from that point back to Cannery Row, picked up my incense, and then walked back and just savored the moment of being there, listening to the tide, observing people going and coming, observing children at play, couples strolling, holding hands, people bicycling, all of the activities that were going on. And it just called to my mind that had I not set this intention and followed through, I would have missed these moments because I'm so busy. The third point I offer to you is to be grateful that you don't have to recreate the wheel. Isn't that a wonderful feeling? We don't have to recreate the wheel. And this is because there is that within us that is ready and willing to do the work. Dr. Holmes tells us that the laws of the universe are to be trusted. The laws of the universe are to be trusted. The laws of the universe work for us, they work through us, and they work as us according to our predominant beliefs. The laws contain all knowledge. We do not have to create the power. We just have to acknowledge it and use it. Remember, power is the energy back of everything that lives. My favorite way of acknowledging it is to be grateful. To be grateful for the ancient wisdom, to be grateful for the principles and tools of science of mind, to be grateful that I attracted all of this into my experience, and to be grateful for the one life that we all are living. This weekend, we celebrate the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Tomorrow, January 18th, is the federal holiday to commemorate Dr. King's life and legacy and work. And we are to commemorate this holiday not as a day off, but as a day to be in service to our community. And I know this year with the shelter in place orders, which are for our highest and best good and the healing of our community, some of the external participations are not available to us. However, there are a number of online activities that we can engage in. And I invite you, if you're willing, to just do a search and identify with something that resonates with you, that would allow you to engage in community service. Dr. King practiced the fundamental philosophy and principles of nonviolence. And remember, our working definition of principle is that which is the cause from which everything results. And so this morning, Amber brought forth our selected reading that captured the principles of nonviolence that were the foundation for Dr. King's work. And for our Facebook community, I offer these here to all of us as a reminder that we can practice the power of our spiritual principles and the principles of nonviolence, which are compatible with each other. We can practice these now in our lives. Dr. King begins by describing his work and says that he received his inspiration from Jesus Christ, the master teacher, and his techniques from Mohandas Gandhi. And these are principles that he offers that we embrace as a lifestyle. Principle 1, nonviolence is a way of life that encourages people. It is active nonviolence. It is active nonviolent resistance to evil. It is aggressive spirituality, mentally and emotionally. Principle 2, nonviolence works to seek friendship and understanding. The end of nonviolence is redemption and reconciliation. The purpose of nonviolence is the creation of the beloved community. And I invite you to take some time and go to the website for the King Center and read Martin's vision of the beloved community. Or if you just do a Google search for beloved community, it really speaks to the principles that we study in Science of Mind and in New Thought. Principle number 3, nonviolence seeks to defeat injustice, not people. Nonviolence recognizes that evildoers are also victims and they are not evil people. I'll say that again. Evildoers are also victims and are not evil people. The nonviolent resistor seeks to defeat evil, not people. Principle 4, nonviolence holds that suffering for a cause can educate and transform people and societies. Nonviolence accepts suffering without retaliation. Unearned suffering for a cause is redemptive and has a tremendous educational and transforming possibilities. Principle number 5, nonviolence chooses love. And what is one of the basic underlying principles of our teaching? Love. Nonviolence chooses love instead of hate. Nonviolence resists violence of the spirit as well as of the body. Nonviolent love is spontaneous, unmotivated, unselfish, and creative. Is this not Science of Mind 101? Love is spontaneous, unmotivated, unselfish, and creative. Principle number 6, nonviolence believes that the universe is on the side of justice. We believe in the emancipation. We believe in the elimination of all discord of every nature, says Dr. Holmes, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Nonviolence believes in that the universe is on the side of justice. The nonviolent resistor has deep faith that justice will eventually win. Nonviolence believes that God is a God of justice. And I also add that God is the God of mercy. And so this brings us to our summary and our call to action. This is what it does. Dr. Holmes reminds us that a new light is coming into the world. We are on the borderland of a new experience, and the veil between spirit and matter is very thin. As we gain the broader viewpoint of what it does, what God does, we can see that life must contain two fundamental characteristics: an infinite spirit, operating through an infinite and immutable law. This is on page 43 in our textbook. What it does, it creates out of itself, but is not absorbed by its creation. How much of this infinite God is ours? All of it. How much of it do we have to use? As much of it as we can embody. I subscribe to an email affirmation series called Notes from the Universe. Some of you may be familiar, some of you may be subscribers. And a recent note that I read resonates with this whole idea of what it does. And the note said, Robert, wouldn't you go to live, love, and be happy, deliriously happy forevermore? What wouldn't you give to live, love, and be happy, deliriously happy forevermore? Well, that's just it. You don't need to give anything. Just decide to live, love, be happy, be deliriously happy from this moment forward. And I shall provide the universe. And then the footnote is, there are no other rules when it comes to these things. What I liked about this was the closing. It says, just decide to live, love, and be happy, deliriously happy from this moment forward, and I shall provide. And our one sentence affirmation, our power affirmation that I would encourage us to use this week is, I now use the power within to express and to experience the good that God is. I now use the power within to express and to experience the good that God is. Let us pray together. And as we prepare to spend this time with the infinite, I offer to you a practice this morning. If you're willing, place your hand on your heart. Or place both hands on your heart. Feel it beating. Feel the beat of your heart. And with each beat, imagine compassion being sent out into the universe, to all people and to all living things. And this compassion that I am calling forth is the compassion of the one life, the one power, the one presence, the one source of all that there is. Recognizing that I am totally immersed in, embraced with, created by, created through, created as, live the very life that I live as this compassionate being, because this is what it does. It expresses compassion through me. And as myself being in the Facebook Live session, and for everyone who will be hearing these words through the medium of technology, through this non-local means, how good it is to be in a non-local situation, knowing that everyone who hears this word is an individualized expression of pure spirit. What it does is working through and as each individual. This power for good in the universe is a power that we can use. And so we use it wisely. And I lift in prayer, I lift in compassion, I lift in love, I lift in peace. I live in the principles of nonviolence, our country, our beloved United States of America, as we continue to move through a period of transformation where the voices of those who feel that they have been disenfranchised are being lifted. And we welcome and embrace those voices, not from a place of get out of here, not from a place of wanting to retaliate, but we listen. We listen with deep compassion. We listen with deep feeling. And we recognize that there are times in our own lives. I know there are times in my life where I feel that my voice has not been heard, where I feel that I have been disenfranchised. And yet, on the other side of that emotional contagion in that moment, on the other side of that, I look back and I can see the great learning from that experience that has allowed me to expand my consciousness that God is absolutely all that there is, and that God is in the midst of everything. Everything is unfolding in divine, right, and perfect order, whether we see it or not. As people of faith, as practitioners of New Thought principles, as practitioners of nonviolence principles, we are called to see the unseen. We're called to know the unknown. We're called to believe that what it does, what God does, what Spirit does, is works everything out for the highest and best of everyone, absolutely everyone. And so I speak a word of yes for those requests that have been placed into the law, that have been placed into the universe, those requests for healing of a physical condition, for healing of an emotional condition, for healing of estrangement, for healing of the transition of loved ones, for healing our anger with God, because it is perfectly okay to be angry with God. It is not blasphemy. It is perfectly okay because God does not take it personally, because God is a spirit. God is a spirit. And so we invite the spirit of this living essence to be the very truth that we stand on, the very truth that we live our life from. And I'm declaring that right livelihood prevails in all of our lives and in all of our affairs. That right livelihood appears as divine employment, divine career, divine passion that provides the financial means and the financial resources to live the life that we desire and deserve. And that no one is shortchanged because of the gifts that we are given, the gifts that we receive, because the gift is freely given to everyone. It is there for everyone to partake of to the degree that they are willing to expand and partake of it. And I just know that in this very moment, absolutely everything that I require is provided. And so, with great gratitude, with deep appreciation for this spiritual community known as the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living, and in deep appreciation and gratitude for each spiritual community, each faith community, each place where people are gathering to recognize the oneness of all life, love prevails. Love is there because love is all there is. And so, in deep, deep gratitude, I release this prayer into the law, which always says yes. And I just allow it to be so. And I invite us to affirm this together by saying, and so it is. And so we now participate in the magnificent flow of abundance. And I am eternally grateful, along with our board and with our finance team. We are very grateful for the way that you support this community that allows us to bring to you our services on these platforms and allows us to expand and to offer other educational programs and the things that make life worth living. And so our affirmation of abundance is I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. In gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. I release this visible substance as an outer symbol of my inner supply into the physical world. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And as we continue our sharing and communion with one another, we invite you to experience and participate in the law of circulation. And the means to support the center are on your screen. You may mail a check to the center at 400 West Franklin Street in Monterey. Make a secure donation through our website, or you may text to give at 831-246-9694. And as we prepare to say goodbye to our Facebook community, I invite you to join us next week where our topic is looking ahead.